Good morning. It is 8:49. Today I've decided to dedicate the day to reading Shakespeare for the first time. I haven't read Shakespeare since I was in secondary school, and I don't really remember it, and it was only because we were forced to. And I googled him and it says William Shakespeare was an English playwright, poet, and actor. He is widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's preeminent dramatist. He is often called England's national poet and the Bard of Avon. So I thought, if that is not reason enough to read Shakespeare, then I don't know what is. Also, interestingly, he was born and he died on the same day of the year. So he was born on the 23rd of April in 1564, and he died on the 23rd of April. So just for context, Mozart came a lot later than Shakespeare. He was in 1756. Who was monarch during Shakespeare? Shakespeare wrote and performed in London during the reign of two different monarchs, Queen Elizabeth I and King James I. Both rulers had significant influence on Shakespeare's work and plays and were fans of the theatre. So the plan for today is to get dressed, and then I was gonna go to some of the local book charity shops in my area, but then I thought, well, I live near a library, I don't need to buy Shakespeare necessarily, it might be no good, I'm joking. So I'm gonna go to the library and see what I can find. I'll take it from there. So I got 3 books from the library. I got one actual Shakespeare play, Othello, which was the only one that they had. And then I got 2 like study guide type things. It's quite nice just to have a book. I know you can probably find most of this information online. So I got these 2. This book provides a clear and engaging introduction to 14 of Shakespeare's major comedies, tragedies, histories, and romances. So he has 4 types of plays, and then this is just on his tragedies, but luckily Othello is a tragedy, which I also didn't know. So I'm learning new things already. This is the critical edition, so it has descriptions of like what some things mean. By heaven, I rather would have been his hangman. Why, there's no remedy, 'tis the curse of service. I always got a lot of anxiety at school when we had to like read out loud. It's a very nice cover. This is just quite a beat up version of it. I think it's got some water damage. Reading Shakespeare. Reading Shakespeare independently can seem a daunting task. For every line of text, there can sometimes be half a page of explanatory information. The student unfamiliar with etymology might feel that the excitement of the drama does not correspond with a form of analysis more akin to reading the dictionary. I'm going to give it my best shot. The performative nature of language is an important aspect of plays. Renaissance writers delighted in verbal play and the endless creative possibilities of language. Just ruined the play for myself. It spoiled the ending. It's currently 4:41 and I've just finished reading the Essential Shakespeare chapter on Othello. I have well and truly ruined it for myself. It actually sounds a lot more interesting than I first thought. I'm really intrigued by, there was a whole section in the Othello chapter on language and Shakespeare's use of language and how he uses that to show the motives of different characters and to signal other emotional events happening. So for example, it says here, Iago's withdrawal from language after his eventual capture signals his ultimate defeat. So like language can be used as a signal. I guess it's a lot more full of poetry and metaphor than I had remembered. So I'm going to start reading Othello now and see how far I get. So I think I'm going to finish reading now. It is around 7:30 and I've got this far through the book so far, or the play rather. It's very mentally draining to read, probably because I'm not used to reading that kind of language, but it definitely makes me appreciate reading like normal books a lot more. My mind kept like wandering, and then my eyes would read to the bottom of the page and my mind would not know what's going on and I'd have to start again. I can definitely see why people think he's so good. Like he's almost a magician with the way that he uses words, even though I don't understand the spells that he's casting. It is now Tuesday. It's a Tuesday and it is almost 9 o'clock. I'm actually finding the reading is getting a bit difficult. I don't know, I think because I'm not very good at concentrating. Maybe I'm just out of practice. I'm going to set a forest timer for an hour and see how I go. So I'm currently on page 219. So I'm almost 100 pages to go. I finally finished reading Othello. It is 1 p.m. and I really enjoyed... Okay, it's sunny. I really enjoyed the ending. I really enjoyed reading like the third. I felt like once I got back into the flow of reading by setting myself the task of doing an hour, even though the beginning was hard, I got back into the flow and then I started to really enjoy it again. I made some notes. So first off would be a tip to my past self for reading it is what I just mentioned about just letting yourself read it, wash over the words, and even if you don't understand every single line, I feel like it is written in a way that you can understand the meaning of what's going on and the emotions of the characters, which definitely helps situate yourself in the drama. The second thing I wrote to say was, he's obviously a very intelligent man and the text is so rich with all these references that he brings in. If you look in the notes at the bottom of the pages, then it will say like, oh, he's taken this like as from a reference from the Bible, like it references this kind of phrase which Shakespeare has taken and used in his own way to add like another layer of meaning. My third general thought is Shakespeare was really woke. I actually wrote, Shakespeare was low-key woke. We don't need Joe Dispenza to tell us this when it was common knowledge in the 1600s. And that was in reference to Act 2, Scene 3. Reputation is an idle and most false imposition, oft got without merit and lost without deserving. You have lost no reputation at all unless you repute yourself such a loser. And then it says in the notes, a man is weal or woe as he thinks himself so. So what I took that to mean was like, you are what you believe you are what you think you are. My final comment was, I really enjoyed how no matter what edition you have, I can imagine that everyone can find their place because it's not just page numbered, it's also done by acts and scenes and then line, which is very specific. I think with a lot of regular books, depending on what edition you get, the lines will shift themselves. Like, you know, if you make the font a tiny bit bigger, then suddenly like one word will loop back round to the other side. And Shakespeare's obviously chosen the meter, but it's also about that pace and not just about like the individual words. So I wanted to finish off by reading you some of my favorite quotes or extracts from the text. So the first one is Act 1, Scene 3, line 321. 'Tis in ourselves that we are thus or thus. Our bodies are gardens, to the which our wills are gardeners, so that if we will plant nettles or sow lettuce, set hyssop and weed up thyme, supply it with one gender of herbs or district it with many. I just like the metaphor of your body and your mind as a garden, and you reap what you sow, which I don't know, that might have come from the Bible. Next one. So there's just this whole bit in the middle that I thought was really funny because it was talking about drinking, like drinking alcohol, and how British people like to drink. So let's go to that. It's Act 2, Scene 3. Not tonight, good Iago. I have very poor and unhappy brains for drinking. I could well wish courtesy would invent some other custom of entertainment. Lol. You don't need to drink to have fun, kids. And then, I learned it in England, where indeed they are most potent in potting. Your Dane, your German, and your swag-bellied Hollander drink ho are nothing to your English. And then so potting here means, well, it actually says in the notes, potent in potting means go in for drinking in a big way. That was amusing. The next one is Act 3, Scene 3, line 325. So Iago says, trifles light as air are to the jealous confirmations strong as proofs of holy writ. I took that to mean like things that mean absolutely nothing, you can convince yourselves are really important and mean something that they don't, that are really big, which is obviously kind of what the whole play is about, is that these tiny little events which Othello witnesses in like the chattering, in his ear is Iago chattering and blowing them up out of proportion into these huge events, which I think is something that we all do to some extent. Then finally, we move on to some of Emilia's lines, which I like towards the end. So Act 3, Scene 4, lines 104 to 107. Oh yeah, this was about men. 'Tis not a year or two shows us a man. They are all but stomachs, and we all but food. They eat us hungrily, and when they are full, they belch us. She said it. And then 4-2-14. Remove your thought, it doth abuse your bosom. And then it says in the notes, bosom, i.e. breast, i.e. chest, considered as the seat of secret thoughts and feelings. But I kind of took it to mean like stop overthinking things because you're like affecting your feelings too much. So those are my favorite quotes from Othello. I'm very proud of myself for sticking with it, and it's definitely made me want to read more. Thank you for joining me, and I don't know why you would have joined me because it's very random and not informative at all video. I enjoy trying something new and documenting the process into the unknown. I hope you're having a good day.